Hello everyone, and welcome to the Juggling Balls YouTube channel. You're with me again, Stu. And yeah, suppose this video is going to be sort of, my reactions to the past 48 hours and thoughts of what's next and all that razzmatazz. But yeah, first off, like, what a 48 hours it's been. Can anyone really have predicted it was gonna melt away this quick? The Super League is pretty much gone. Um, yeah, this morning, obviously, the last few clubs have pulled out. I think literally it's only Real Madrid and Barca that's left. Yeah, I thought it would be done in a couple of weeks. I didn't think it'd be done in a couple of days. I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. I'm delighted that it's just taken pretty much the football equivalent of a blink of an eye to get rid of. Um, But yeah, it goes back to what we've all been saying, what everyone has said. It was a stupid idea. There was no way the fans were going to be happy with this. There was no way they conceivably should have ever been okay with this. The damage it could have done, not just, let's not forget, not the damage it could have done, not just to the English leagues, but to football in Europe as a whole. It could have ruined everything and done such irreparable damage that football as we know it would be dead. And honestly, as a huge football fan and as a person that's followed it ever since he can remember, it would have been it would have been horrific. It would have been awful. All those descriptions and more if it had gone through. But I suppose the question we have to ask ourselves now is like, really, is what's next? Like, do we just sit and wait and see what happens next, or do we try and do something about it? I suppose the correct answer is to hope that these governing bodies and the people involved and all of these characters that are involved in football in one way or another are able to put their heads together and make sure things like this don't happen again, and that there is no way for them to happen again. I think that I again, it's difficult to give ways to sort of avoid it, but I think one way to avoid it is punishing the clubs that have been involved. How severely is another question in terms of reflecting solely on the English teams. I think we have to look at the possibility of a few different sanctions. I think that one single sanction on its own is not going to do any damage to them. It's not really going to make them learn. I think you need to have a combination of points and a transfer embargo. The reason I say that is because if you take, say for example, when clubs have gone into administration in the league or they've broke some rules, usually the borderline points deduction is around 12 points. So if you put that into perspective, if you take 12 points off Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, United, and Arsenal, for the majority of those clubs, as of right now, would 12 points make a huge difference? City, definitely not. City could go win a title with minus 12 points, which in itself is quite frankly ridiculous and shows you the gap between them and everybody else at the minute. Liverpool with a full strength squad, yep, they'll be up there with City. United, they've taken steps forward this season. Whether they'd be in a title fight with minus 12 points, I don't know, but they would certainly be able to still reach top four. And then Chelsea, I would probably say the same as United in that scenario. Spurs and Arsenal, it's probably a bit more of a debate depending on how their summers go. But yeah, really is a points deduction on its own, unless it's like 30 points or 40, which would be huge in terms of never seeing anything like this before, and it would put a clear message. But I don't personally think the Premier League is going to go for that. I just think that's probably a little bit too severe on its own. Um, when everybody has withdrawn in the space of 48 hours. But again, some form of sanction in terms of point deduction, I think, would be fair. The other thing as well is if you take a 12 point deduction on its own, it's not going to work. But if you put that in with a transfer embargo with a minus 12 points, it would have a bigger effect on those clubs because they wouldn't, for the players that they're going to lose or that are leaving on free transfers like Aguero or people like that, you have no you have no way to you know you have no way to rebound from that. You can't bring someone in to replace them. Haaland's off the table for all those clubs who are interested in him. Um, and a transfer embargo would be a good way to go. Obviously, it would just be a 1 year thing, like Chelsea had to go through with their whole shenanigans that they went through. Um, but yeah, I think a point deduction and transfer embargo would go a long way. Um, Again, a fine. The problem is with fines, how big's the fine? The fine to make a dent has got to be significant. It's got to be like tens of millions, hasn't it? Because most of the time you'll see clubs get played behind closed doors. At the minute, in the current crisis we're in, that doesn't really matter. That's not going to have an effect. And fining them £50,000 to £100,000 for this that's a teardrop in the ocean for them. That doesn't really do anything. So yeah, I mean, like I think in terms of sanctions, there definitely has to be something. There has to be some sort of sanction to demotivate them from doing anything like this ever again. I think there also, and moving on from sanctions, I think there also has to be some kind of change in terms of how it's governed. I think that comes from both the Premier League and the FA. Again, I don't know how much the government can really get involved because, never mind UEFA, FIFA do not like governments getting involved with how the way football is run. It's very rare when it's okay for them to do so. I think that it's got to be done in the right way. I think you have to take a little bit of the power away from the clubs that are involved. You have to, as big as they are and how much money they bring in individually and as a whole to the Premier League and to the English pyramid. I think a bit of power has to be taken away from them because they've shown that with that power they can't do things. Sorry to almost go into a Spider-Man quote, but they can't do things responsibly, and they've almost thrown away the entirety of the history of their respective clubs when just left to it. So for me, I think something has to change in that regard. Whether it's as extreme as going to the German 50 plus 1, or if it's something like a 75-25. Again, I don't know how enforceable that would be, but it could be changed for new owners coming in, or it could be changed for, maybe that is the way to go, is like when a new owner comes in, that's how they've got to do it. Maybe that demotivates people coming in, but it also motivates the owners to maybe change up themselves, change the way they've operated a little bit to make sure that fans stay happy and fans are involved and that they don't lose that control that they want. But yeah, it's very tricky to know where things are going to go. I think obviously things do need to change. I think if there's one thing we take from these past 3, 4 days of the Super League being announced and that it's happening on Sunday night to Tuesday night/Wednesday morning, it's not happening anymore because everyone's chickened out and ran to the hills after the backlash. The one thing we have to learn is that things do need to change and we can't let things keep going as they are because eventually things someone somewhere is going to try and change things up and it's going to cause damage. We have to make it so that things like this can never happen again and that the relevance of these football clubs and the relevance of the fans to these football clubs is preserved. Because once you lose the relevance of the fans, what is football really? It's the great Matt Busby said, football is nothing without the fans. And if the fans didn't back that Super League and the Super League had went ahead, it would have died a death, but then football itself would have died, and no one wants to see that as a lover of the game. That's you wait for the weekends or your midweek matches, and it's one of the best parts of your week. It's almost a religion to some people. Not least myself. Anytime a Man United match is on, I'm there. I tell everybody around me I'm not doing anything. This is what I'm doing between 8 o'clock at night and 10 o'clock at night. I'm watching the football. If it's on Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock kickoff, big game, small game, whatever game it is, I'll be watching it. And it's the same for hundreds of millions of people across this planet, not least the tens of millions of people who watch it in the UK, and obviously voiced their opinion and voiced and gave their rightful opinion and had their right to voice it. And thankfully, the majority of people were all on the same page, and we all voiced our opinions, and we got what was right. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's been a great outcome for the fans. I think that we enjoy this for a little bit, for the couple of days, whilst it's still going to be in the headlines, and it's going to. I mean, this whole thing's going to get talked about for months and years to come. It has to, because of how ridiculous it was, and B, how big an impact it was going to have. It's going to be fresh in the memory for a very long time. Even to the point now where there's already campaigning for the new Champions League structure in 2024. There's now campaigning for that to be for the. I think there's a couple of places in terms of qualifying, which is based on historical performance in the Champions League. That people are already campaigning for that to be removed, which is, to me, is a good sign, because it means that people aren't resting on the laurels. It means that people are willing to take the next step and improve things further, which is exactly what football needs. Because these people at the top have been having it their own way for way too long, and I'm saying that as a fan of Manchester United. I've had the Glazers as my owners of my club for 15 years, and you know, I mean, I was 13 at the time, so probably I didn't really get the full comprehension of what happened and what was going on. But as I've got older and I've realised that this is the problem that they've caused, and obviously you can see it every year because they take money out of the club. They're making it so bad for us at the moment. We're in so much debt that all it could take is for them to pull the plug, and we could, if no one else is willing to come in and buy the club and sort things out, we could be gone, or back down to the bottom of the pyramid and start again. But if that happens, that's what happens. I mean, you just have to live with it. I'd still support the club, and that's what I've been saying, is that whilst if this Super League had gone ahead, I wouldn't have watched another game. I wouldn't have watched United ever again until the Glazers were out. Now that it's done and dusted and the Super League ain't happening anytime soon, I'm comfortable watching United. But everybody, and I think everybody who is a fan of Man United or these top seed clubs, it's the club we're supporting, not the owners. It's the players, the manager, the badge on the shirt is what we support. It's not the individuals who caused this ruckus or this absolute megaton of, I don't even know what the avalanche of stupidity that has come out of these decision makers. But yeah, like, change has to happen in some way, shape, or form in multiple places. It has to happen with how English football's governed. It has to change with how UEFA govern things. It has to change with how the owners are operating. It has to change. It has to change across the board. It can't keep going the same way. Again, I don't know what that looks like, but clearly with enough people involved and the right people involved, not just the guys at the top of the table deciding whatever they want, we'll get the right outcome and we'll get there. Because clearly, if something comes along and a decision gets made that people aren't happy with, we've seen now that fans will come together and tell the governing bodies how it is. And thankfully, these clubs aren't too big that they don't listen to the fans. So, and I think that's what we have to take from it, and enjoy it over the next couple of days and see what happens. And then, honestly, just enjoy the football at the weekend, because these past few days have been nothing nothing short of a roller coaster. Really have, but we made it through. We got there. That's the main thing, and let's see what we can do now. So, with that being said, if you did like the video, please give us a like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment and let me know what you think of the video, and maybe even give some other videos a watch. I've started a Master League series on Pro Evo with Newcastle United. First episode, I think, is about 22 minutes long. It's not too long, so if you can, even just a little bit of it, let me know what you think in the comments. Yeah, so let us know what you think. If you can subscribe, that'd be great. Leave some comments. Do whatever you like. If you've watched it, even just like 20 seconds of this, I really appreciate it. If you've made it to the end, I really appreciate it as well. So, that being said, I'll stop waffling and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.